Hello, and welcome to episode 12.2. I am James. In this episode, we will learn about the most recent period in the history of English, the late modern period. After that, we'll discuss the first of two types of language change. With increasing standardization of the language and increasing literacy and education of the population, came the introduction of strict grammar rules, and several books were published during this period to achieve this. Robert Loth's 1762, A Short Introduction to English Grammar, was the most prevalent, which introduced several infamous rules that are still debated today. Let's discuss three of them. Firstly, he used mathematical logic to argue that two negatives make a positive. Therefore, double negatives, such as I don't want nothing, became ungrammatical, even though they were commonly used by authors for emphasizing the negative meaning of the sentence. The debate today focuses on whether mathematics can be used to decide whether something is grammatical. Secondly, Loth claimed that a preposition cannot end a sentence. For example, where did he come from is incorrect. From where did he come is correct. Thirdly, Loth stated that an adverb should not split apart an infinitive verb. In other words, an adverb should not be between the to and the verb. For example, he slowly ate is correct, but to slowly eat helps digestion is not. Instead, to eat slowly helps digestion is correct. These two rules were inspired by higher quality languages, Latin and Greek, as a preposition cannot physically end a sentence in Latin, and an infinitive verb does not have two parts in Latin, so it cannot physically be interrupted by an adverb. The debate on these topics concerns whether it makes sense for rules to be forced onto a language with completely different grammatical rules. Overall, these attempts to fix English grammar had a huge impact on the public's opinion about the importance of grammar, which explains why English grammar changed hugely before this period, but has resisted change since. Perhaps the most influential publication in terms of the standardization of English was Samuel Johnson's A Dictionary of the English Language in 1755. While not the first English dictionary, it was by far the largest and most detailed, containing approximately 40,000 words. It contributed to the continued standardization of English, as it became the default place to check the spellings and meanings of words. Overall, the changes that occurred in English in this period are the least major. Thus, texts from the 1700s are much more recognizable than from earlier periods, and the main way that English changed was the addition of vocabulary. From the late 1700s onwards, new words entered English from several sources. The languages of places colonized by the British Empire, for example, dinghy, came from India. Scientific developments, for example, chemotherapy. New inventions, for example, email. Political developments, for example, Brexit. War, for example, kamikaze. In particular, new technology, for example, TV, the internet, airplanes, has made it easier to communicate with and travel to distant places, and this has largely contributed to the continued loss of accents and dialects both within England and across the English-speaking world. In other words, the varieties of English are slowly becoming more similar to each other. This was aided by the rise of the USA as a superpower in the 1900s, which continues to spread Americanisms to all English varieties. In the next section of this episode, we will examine how two aspects of English have changed over time. In this episode, we'll examine how the words that we use change. This is called lexical change. There are several ways of forming new words. Let's explore them now. Firstly, the process is called coinage, and the new words are called neologisms. This process is the creation of completely new words, thus are not from other words. Here are some examples. iPod, muggle, which is from Harry Potter. 2. Borrowing, or also called loanwords. In this process, words are taken from other languages, mostly Germanic, French, Latin, and Greek. Borrowings occur when a new idea or product is introduced to the society. For example, vodka from Russian, pizza from Italian, karaoke from Japanese. Borrowings also reflect the influence from politically, economically, and culturally powerful countries. For example, Americanisms. Movie and shopping mall are slowly replacing film and shopping centre in British English. 3. Affixation. In this process, new words are formed by adding suffixes to the end of a word or prefixes to the start of a word to existing words. Most of these come from Latin and Greek. Examples of prefixes are micro, microwave, anti, antivirus, multi, multimedia. Examples of suffixes are ism, such as racism, and ness, such as happiness. 4. Compounding. In this process, separate words are combined to form a new, larger word or phrase. Compounds can be divided by a hyphen, such as blue-eyed and good for nothing. They can be separate words, such as head chef, contact lens, or they can be one single word. For example, blackbird, pickpocket. 5. Coalescence, which is also called blending. Coalescence is similar to compounding, but only parts of each word are combined. For example, smog, from smoke and fog. Brexit, from Britain and exit. Chinglish, from Chinese and English. 6. Conversion. In this process, an existing word is used in a new way, which changes its grammatical category, but not its morphological form. However, sometimes the stress might move to a different syllable. Here are some examples. From a noun to a verb, such as to time. From a verb to a noun, such as to record, from a record. From an adjective to a verb, such as to perfect. From an adverb to a noun, such as from out to outing. 7. Clipping. In this process, an existing word is shortened. There are 3 forms. In back clipping, the start of the word is kept. In fore clipping, the end of the word is kept. And there is also middle clipping. Here are some examples. Firstly, back clipping. Exam, from examination. Gym, from gymnasium. Here are examples of fore clipping. Phone, from telephone. Burger, from hamburger. Here are examples of middle clipping. Flu, from influenza. Jams, from pyjamas. 8. Back formation. This is a type of clipping in which a word is clipped and the new word is in a different grammatical category. Here are some examples. From a noun to a verb. Edit, from editor. Donate, from donation. Enthuse, from enthusiasm. 9. Acronyms and initialisms. In this process, words are formed from the initial letters of existing words. Acronyms are pronounced as a word, whereas in initialisms, each individual letter is pronounced. Here are some examples. Firstly, of acronyms. Radar, which is from radio detection and ranging. AIDS, from acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Here are some initialisms. BBC, from British Broadcasting Corporation. CCTV, from China Central Television. Finally, eponyms. In this process, a word is created from the name of a person, a place, or a brand. Here are some examples. Of a person, Sandwich is named after John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich. Here are some examples of place. The type of car, limousine, is named after Limousin, an area in France. And here is an example of a brand. Band-Aid is often used as the general name for a bandage, but it is actually the name of a particular brand. While we mostly think of lexical change as creating new words, it is also common for words to gradually stop being used. These are called archaisms. In some cases, speakers of the language are still aware of these words, but would not use them in everyday conversations. This is very common for obsolete technology, such as gramophone. In other cases, these archaic words have died out completely, and so are truly unknown to speakers. For example, very few native speakers know that writ large is an adjective meaning clear and obvious. We will discuss another type of language change in the next episode. Before we finish, please answer some questions. Thank you for watching.